Right alongside the main road going through Bothaville on the way south is this Garden of Remembrance in the civilian cemetery, or the old civilian cemetery. This is the wording on the main memorial block. Not all these men died at the Battle of Bothaville. But some very important men, as far as the British Army were concerned, were lost there, including the commanding officer at that battle. Colonel Philip Walter le Gallais. There's only one Australian registered on this memorial, although both West Australians and New South Welshmen were involved in this battle. The Boers called it Klipkraal, the British called it Bothaville. This is where the remains of all these men now lie buried. This is the wall of the little dam inside the stone-walled garden at Klipkraal Farm, or it was once called Klipkraal Farm. And this is the line of the stone wall. It's all grown over with weeds now, along which the burghers faced the British troops. With the bandit charge by the West Australians and the remains of Captain Lean's company started at those trees over there, which is where the cemetery now stands. The gate in the stone-walled garden stood at this point here, and from this point, if those trees weren't in place, you'd see the main farmhouse about 110 meters away, and through the doors of that farmhouse were most of the British officers hit, killed or wounded who were casualties in this engagement. This is the General Dewitt monument just off the main road to Hoopstad. Hercules Odendahl, who showed me all around his farm when I was here 14 years ago, is now no longer with us. What a nice man. This is the remaining monument in the cemetery at the farm, and in the mass grave are those burghers who were known to have lost their lives here. All the British have been reinterred in Bothaville. This is the rest of the cemetery. All the British graves have been dug up and reinterred. Not Hooks, but it's actually Hoopstad. And this is the turn off into the farm, which no longer bears any name resembling Klipkraal or Doomkraal. It is behind this section of this wall that General Dewitt had his gun park, and where the 75mm Krupp gun, which now stands in front of the Boer War Memorial in Kings Park in Perth, was captured. This is some more of the wall leading down to the apex behind this bush in the far corner. It was from this section of this wall that the Boer soldiers, and about 100 were fighting in this garden, faced the assault of the West Australian infantry, or mounted infantry, under Lieutenant Darling when they made their bandit charge from the rise in the distance. On their left flank was Major Lean and the remnants of his 5th Mounted Infantry, who made a simultaneous attack onto this wall. The Boers, seeing the bandits coming at them, surrendered, and with that the whole battle at Bothaville came to a cease. This is the outside of the west wall of the stone garden. The Times history map indicates there was a bit of a dimple at this point, but there's no evidence to show that this existed. The wall seems to be quite straight along here, and immediately behind is where the guns were parked. Looking across the garden to the far side is where the entrance gate was, and it was from that position that the Boer snipers could fire through the passage in the house that was the farmhouse existent at that time. The gate is now gone, but the entrance is still clearly there. You can see the roof of Annemie and Renier van Heerden's home, people who have been absolutely wonderful to us. But the house next door, the building next door, which is a shed you can't see through the trees, and that now appears to be the one where the access passage lined up with this entrance. Therefore, any person who walked across the passage while the doors were open could be seen from here and was sniped. I'm now standing in the area where Dewitt's commando, together with President Steyn, had their lager, and behind where these trees are, these trees did not exist in those days, and this is where wagons and also the gun park was situated. They were scattered all over here, surprised by the British, and all the guns were lost to the British in this engagement. It is not exactly easy to determine where Major Lean and his 67 members of the 5th Mounted Infantry took up their position at the crack of dawn on the morning of 6th of November, but they came over that ridge in the distance, and whether they stopped there when they saw the Boer camp or moved across this area here to this ridge at this point is not clear. This is possibly a much better point from which to have launched an attack. The West Australians would have joined them about an hour after the commencement of the battle in that general direction. Through the trees you can just make out a car, and that's parked outside the Van Heerden's homestead. Behind this shrubbery is the present-day cemetery. I'm taking a shot through the bank of weeds which separate me from the old house, the road and the walled garden at Bothaville. You can make out the present-day road, and just beyond that is the gate in the walled garden, now covered in hedge, weeds and bracken. I'm going to do a 180-degree turn and show you where the snipers were shooting. This is the original old house that stood on the present-day farm site. It's now a shed and a chicken coop. But through this doorway you can see right through to the other side. There's now a dividing wall which makes it impossible to see through the building, but that has been added far more recently. This shed stands adjacent to the present-day home, and although there is an old building inside and this has been added to, I'm now certain that this is not the building that was here or that was used by the British officers as their headquarters during the battle. The old wall and the supporting buttresses are still very evident here. I'll now approach this door and you can see what the building looked like inside. This far more modern wall, as you can see, only extends up as far as the 10-foot mark. The old floors are still very evident in here, and this section has been closed off as well. Looking from the door along this wall of the building, this section beyond this buttress seems to have been added much later. It would appear that the old house ended here. This door looks as though it was in fact in position at that time. We'll take a walk around and you'll see where the other door of this house is situated, exactly in line with the door at the front. There's evidence of some demolition along this wall, but it is quite possible that these buttresses or these extensions might have been in position at that time, at the turn of the century. Looking round to the left, moving further and further towards the north, behind this present-day house is the big stone kraal, which the British also used as a defence position during this attack. This is the remnants of the kraal, which was in fact complete 14 years ago, but the stones have now been used for other purposes and not much of it is now left.